Today, friends, I'm going to show you how to quickly make an image into something flexy. So let's get cracking. Friends, we're going to start with a template. If you type bit.ly/tinkbfly or look in the description, it'll take you to this project right here. Now, of course, this is set to copy and tinker, so don't forget the golden rule of Tinkercad. Give a reaction before you copy and tinker. When it launches, you will see that we've got a fun little template that we're going to build a flexi butterfly with. Friends, let me show you how I made that. So I simply went to Google. I did butterfly JPG. I found a top view like this one right here, and then I just did a screenshot of it. I've got a shortcut key so it's easy to grab. My shortcut takes it to Snagit, which is an awesome tool, but any screen capture tool is fine. I'm going to hit this button right here to save it real quickly as a PNG. You could also do this as a JPEG and get the same results. Once you've got it saved, we're going to bounce to a web page, pick SVG. It is a free SVG converter. All you do is upload a picture. I have got my little butterfly saved over here in my screenshots folder. When you bring it in, you can choose edges or you can choose internal. I usually choose internal, but this time I want all these edges, so I'm just going to go with edge 2, and I'm going to hit download SVG. It comes up with a wacky name. I'm just going to keep that name because I don't really need this one. So now we are back in the template. If you had your own cool shape you wanted to play with, here's how you import it. Simply choose a file. Remember, mine was in my downloads and it had that wacky name. When you bring it in, I always choose art, and then I pick the size I want to build with. I'm going to choose 90 millimeters, press enter, it scales both, and we can hit import, and after a moment, you have a traceable shape. That's how we did this. So if you want to make anything else, like a snail, a worm, a bee, whatever you want to make flexy, that's how you take your JPEG and turn it into something you can trace. So real quickly, friends, this is what we're going to build. It is an adorable little butterfly. As you can see, I've already printed it once. We added these hinges so that it's reasonably strong, yet the wings flap. We're going to make the project efficient by building one wing and then all the hinges, and then just putting that same wing on the other side. This body is simply built using spheres. I'm going to do Control D, so that way I don't break the one that we built, and I'm going to ungroup it. Notice right here we've got eyes, and then I've got holes for filament. If we hit the letter E, it goes to the work plane for that shape, and you can see that I've found that if I cut in a 1.92 cylinder, then I can slide filament in there to give it some color after it prints. Of course, you could print this project entirely in color, but I'm always trying to make projects that print relatively quickly. Ungroup that once again, and you can see that all this is a sphere, and I squished it, and then I cut off the bottom so that I didn't need supports when it printed. I did also click this one, and I rotated it a few degrees up, just so it had a more interesting look. With all that out of the way, let's get to building. So we've got this template, we're going to build half, and we're going to do it with the wicked cool sketch tool. Now when you bring out the sketch tool, I just want to highlight it fits a 20 by 20 grid. So I'm going to put it right here on the 20 by 20 that would be in the center. Now because we lined that up, you can see that our butterfly, which imports right to the middle, is now split exactly in half. We're going to shut off the grid. That way we can put these points wherever we want, and we're going to cut this butterfly into 3 wings. Of course, if you want more segments, that's up to you. We've got these tools right here, straight lines or curves. They have got the shortcut 1 for creating lines and 2 for the Bezier curves. I'm going to start up here, and I'm going to hit 2, and I just want to curve this a little bit, and then I'm going to curve this a little bit, and I'm going to click, hold, and curve this a little bit to make my first wing shape. Coming out here as far as I want. Click and hold to twist it a little bit. And I'm going to click and hold, click, click and hold, and then finally finish. Now when you're done, it's not perfect. So what we do is we double click, and we can edit these points. So I want these to be adjusted. So I'm going to click on them, and I'm going to bend it the other way. Notice these both moved. That means they are a smooth handle. If we want only one to move, click the point and hit number 3, and that means we broke the handles. When you do that, it'll turn separately. So this one can be here, and then I can click on this point and I can carry it down where I want. Now Tinkercad has these awesome measurements, so we can tell dimensions now on a shape. So we can get dimensions, but sometimes they're in the way. So I just want you to know, if you zoom in, then you can grab the point exactly the way you want. So the body is going to come through here, and I'm just making sure I leave a gap of about 1 of these millimeters all the way through this. I do want to make sure that I stay within the shape. That'll be for a different part of the project, a different day. So we want to make sure that whatever we build is inside our template, but there is wing 1. If I click outside and do P for pen, I can now make the second section. Once again, click and start. Press number 2 for a Bezier curve, and I'm just going to make that curve similar and similar. This is click and hold to get it to twist. Simply using those same skills that we had a moment ago to get around and make the next part of our wing. Notice you can stretch, add, remove, do whatever you need to get this to look exactly the way you want. I like that, so I'm going to click outside and let's make the final piece. Once again, P for pen, hit P for pen, and then use those same skills to trace this chunk of the butterfly's wing. And that, my friends, is our wing. When we hit Finish Sketch, bingo, we have just taken a single wing and we've cut it into separate sections. As I take a quick peek, once again, I want to make sure the blue is never poking out, and it is twice here. So I'm just going to double click and then double click, and I'm just going to pull these pieces in just a little bit. We're going to make this a multicolor project later, so that's why I just want to make sure that we've got this outline larger than the full project. Once again, just adjust this handle so I'm sure it stays inside, and then hit Finish Sketch. Friends, now we're going to build the cool little connectors. The first thing I want you to do is turn your grid on. Let's put it to 0.5. Bring out a sketch, and we want to drop it close to the 20 by 20 grid. When you put it on, we're going to start by making a circle. So these are 1 millimeter each. So I want you to go 1 millimeter up, over, down, back, and connect. Double click that and double click that and check it out. You have made a 2 by 2 perfectly round cylinder simply because we double clicked it. Now hit Finish Sketch, and this is going to be the pin that we use for our project. Now we want it to also be the hole that cuts it out. So I'm going to tell you to do Control D. I'm going to tell you to shift stretch to Crazyville, but then type 2.5 and press enter. That is going to be the hole that cuts out where that sits. I'm going to select those two, choose L for align, make the pin the boss, and choose center and center. Now we're going to do one more sketch right here. Let's keep it lined up by doing Control D. Let's set that one to red. I'm going to make it a little taller so it's easier to double click. And when we double click, it edits. Now we don't want that sketch, so we're going to simply hit delete, but below it are all the other sketches. Now we're going to build a 4x4 connector. So we've got the line mode. Check it out. Here is 2 millimeters up plus 2 millimeters down. That's the 4x4. Now we're going to go past this, and let's go 1 past. From this center, 1, 2, 3 out, and come back and connect it. Notice we've got straight lines. Now let's double click to edit. Simply grab these 3 points and hit the number 2 to make it so it's a curve. That rounds that end pretty nice. I do want these to stay straight, so I'm going to click on them and I'm going to choose 1 and 1. And as I look at this, I'm going to modify it a little bit. I'm going to grab those 2 and I'm just going to drag them back 1 chunk. That's more like what I wanted. Since we've got our 0.5 millimeter nudge, I can grab that and make it a little better as well. Now, friends, we can hit Finish Sketch. We're going to make this 3 millimeters thick. We want to take the hole, and we want to do Shift Select and Control G to group. So bingo, that's going to be all the way around it. And then we want to take this, and we're going to make it 6 millimeters. And we're going to grab the entire thing, do L for align, and we want it to be totally in the center. That is the pin we use for the rest of the project. All right, with it lined up, I'm going to double click and edit this. Check it out. We're inside. I can double click the red one. And on this red one, I just simply want to make this line further back. So if I double click, I can grab that and I can just drag it one further. So that way we've got a little bit more room while we're working with this. That's what's so cool about these multi-sketches is we can double click, edit, and make them work exactly the way we want. I'm going to grab these and do Control D so I don't lose them. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees so that it's ready to put in place. Notice if we stay inside this circle, 22.5 degrees per rotation. If we hold down Shift, it's 45 degrees. Once we get to 90, let's do D to drop. So it is at the right height for our project. We're also going to take those two and do Control G to group. I do want the colors to be different, so I'm going to double click and make them red. That way it's easier to spot. Notice last time I kept these separate. It is not really needed though, and I think this will work just as well. All right, so with our part built, let's click on this and do T for transparent. That'll make placement a little easier. Let's also fix this gap real quick. I'm going to double click on it so we're editing. I'm going to edit this one, and I'm going to click on this, and I'm just going to move it back. And then I'm going to take and make it a 3, so that way there is a larger gap in between those. I'm also going to double click this one, and I want this to pull away instead of being towards it. So there's just a little more gap. Finish sketch. We've got it transparent. Now we can take these pieces and we can put them in place. I'm going to keep this as a template, do Control D, and I just want to move it so the hinge is mostly inside our shape. I do not mind if it pokes out. We're going to cut around that in a moment anyways. Control D, move the other one up to the front. Once again, find a spot where it's mostly in and we're good to go. I'm going to grab both those at the same time. Control D, nudge the new duplicates right up in. Notice I'm getting these as close as I can, but now I'm going to match the rotation. So this one I can see for this to bend really the way I want needs to be about 16 degrees. So then I want to make sure this one is 16 degrees as well. And I'm going to find a spot where it would connect. Right there is a reasonably good spot for those two hinges to be at the same spot and work. Now let's grab these two, Control D. Let's bring these out here and see if we can find a place for these to both connect. So this connects really nice. I've got the hinge totally on this side. Here I've got the twist, which makes it a bit of a problem. I'm going to choose to do it up here. So notice the pin is a little bit too far, but check this out. If I double click, I can click on that pin and I can shrink it so it fits the way I'd really want. So now when we click off, we've edited the pin, but it's still going to print fine. Now we need to go back and edit the cutouts. Check this out. Click on our transparent wing, double click on it, and now we're going to edit our shapes. Simply double click. Press the number 4 to go to add mode, and we need 4 points for each one of these. So there are my 4 points. Press the letter V to go into modify mode, and we simply make a rectangle that goes around those hinges. Click on your lines that are curves and make them straight with the number 1. Let's make sure our grid is down to something like off so we can be as precise as we want. And you just want to leave a 0.5 millimeter or so on every side. We don't have to be perfect. Once again, hit 1 to make it a straight line and drag those pieces into place. Notice I grabbed a handle there, so I'm going to do Control Z. Let's zoom in so I'm sure I've got the point. And bingo, there is the cutout for that part right there. Now I'm going to pan by pushing in the scroll wheel. Once again, hit number 4 to add points. 2, 3, 4 pieces. Hit V to go into modify mode. Make that one nice and straight. This one right up here, so we've got that gap that we want. Notice each one of those grid boxes is a millimeter. Then simply hit the number 1 to snap them back to lines. Bang. And of course, double click and repeat those steps for this one as well. Once again, double click, V. Notice I double clicked one too many times and it switched it to lines. So I'm just going to do Control Z and then of course repeat the steps one more time. And our wing cutouts are finished. Notice now, T for transparent, you can see there is a pin and a hinge connecting all four of those. We do have gaps everywhere. This one is pretty tight. Notice I can double click, and I can stretch that out to get the gap right in an instant. How cool is that? All right, let's build our body. Once again, this is a sphere. I did shift shrink to get it to the size I wanted, stretched it out, and then bingo, we added 3 of those. The measurements I chose were 17.6. You can see these were just guesses. This one I made a little longer. This one I made a little shorter. And then here's the important part. I added these eyes. With these, I'm going to hit E once again so you can see the measurement. 1.92. And then I made the length of that 6.77. So I cut this into the head. I did have a sphere up here for strength. Notice those are about 4 millimeters. And then I just spaced them up and angled them so they looked like that. And then this is a hole that I put so that we had a flat bottom that made it easier for printing. To cut this out, I'm going to do Shift Select on this stuff and I'm going to hide it. So now it's real easy to grab our body and do Control G to group. Once again, this gives us the flat bottom that makes that easier to print. If we do Show All, and then this is so cool, from the top, we can easily just grab the entire project. Notice I'm skipping this, do Control D, shift nudge to the other side. Notice I've got my nudge off, so it's crazy slow. Let's go back to 1. And we're gonna use the mirror tool. Simply flip it just like this, and then nudge it so the gap is the same on both sides. Let's put it to 0.1. And get it till you're happy. I am happy with this placement, but if you need yours to be perfectly centered, I'm just going to show you. We can grab it all, do Control G so it's one piece. Then we can do Show All to bring back that body piece. Notice I chose to skip this step just because of how long the extra grouping takes, but now I can grab it all, do L for align, and then it is perfectly in the center. As you can see, it did not move that much, so I'm not sure it was really worth it. Of course, if you don't want it grouped, you can ungroup after you did that. I'm going to print this in a single color. Do make sure you stay tuned, as I will have a multicolor version coming next week. We're going to hit export, and I'm going to export it as an STL. I'm going to save mine in my 3D modeling folder instead of butterfly template. I'm going to call it butterfly, and let's put a V1 after it, because of course you can make all sorts of varieties of it. Of course, now is the time where we bounce to Bamboo Lab Studio, and of course find in the 3D modeling folder Butterfly V1. And bingo, there is our awesome little project. Notice all the little cutouts that are going to make it so that it can bend. I'm going to right click and change filament colors to orange, just because that's a pretty cool butterfly color. I'm going to use the 0.2 standard settings, and let's hit Slice Plate. And let's hit Print Plate. Notice it's only going to take about 26 minutes, which is absolutely insane. And of course, send it to the 3D printer. After a moment, it bounces to the device menu. Of course, we have to wait patiently for it to download. But once it does, you can of course hit play and monitor everything from afar. Friends, there you have it. Simple steps to take a flat image and turn it into a 3D printable flexi print. How cool is that? Now, I do want to say thank you to my members. Friends, you can check out the different levels. Any level of support is appreciated. I do also want to say thanks to my supporters on Patreon. Love how that group is growing. It is a fantastic community. Of course, you can learn more with the bit.ly up above or the link in the description. Finally, friends, I do want to say thanks to you. Don't forget, every time you hit that like button, share a video, add a comment down below, or click subscribe, you're helping HLModTech get just a little bit bigger, which absolutely makes my day. Friends, have a glorious day and keep tinkering.